Corporal William Hackett pressed his ear to the clay wall and whispered, "They're close, far too close." Hackett wasn't at Hawthorn Ridge, but men just like him were fighting a silent war under the earth, carving one of the largest mines of the First World War. The Battle of the Somme is remembered for its mud, its trenches, and its unimaginable casualties. But beneath the battlefield lay another theater of war, hidden, suffocating, and fought in total darkness. A war of shovels, picks, and silence. This is the story of the Tunnellers, who brought down Hawthorn Ridge and the world underground. That men like Corporal William Hackett lived and died in. Hackett was a miner from Nottinghamshire before the war. When the British Army created tunnelling companies in 1915, they didn't call up soldiers. They called up coal miners, sewer workers, clay diggers, men who could carve through the earth without hesitation. Hackett became one of the 170,000 underground specialists who fought an unseen battle beneath France. The work was brutal and claustrophobic. Tunnels were often less than 4 feet high, forcing men to crawl on hands and knees. The air was thick with smoke from candle stubs. Every sound mattered. A single cough could give away a gallery. A misjudged swing could reveal your position to the enemy. And on the other side of the clay wall, German tunnelers were listening to their picks, scraping closer every day. The dangers were endless. Carbon monoxide, hidden water pockets, sudden collapses, and the terrifying possibility of German countermines exploding without warning. Yet the men kept digging, inch by inch, knowing that their work might decide the fate of entire divisions above. It was in this hidden world that the setup for one of the Somme's most iconic explosions began. In late 1915, the British identified Hawthorn Ridge, a heavily fortified German strongpoint near Beaumont Hamel, as a major obstacle. The Germans had converted the ridge into a fortress, with machine gun nests, deep dugouts, and interlocking fields of fire that dominated the British front line. The solution was as audacious as it was deadly. Dig under the ridge, plant a massive charge, and detonate it moments before the Somme offensive began. The 252nd Tunnelling Company took on the mission. They dug through layers of clay and chalk, often within meters of German listening posts. Each day was a race against time and against enemy. Then, finally, in the frozen months of early 1916, they reached the chamber. Working by lantern light, the tunnelers packed the space with nearly 40,000 pounds of ammonal, stacking the bags carefully, running fuses, and sealing the chamber. It was one of the largest underground bombs ever created up to that time. But while Hawthorn Ridge's story was unfolding, another dramatic chapter in tunnelling warfare was being written miles away at Givenchy. It was there that Corporal William Hackett performed the act that made him the only tunneler awarded the Victoria Cross in the entire war. During a German explosion that collapsed a British gallery, several men were buried alive. Hackett spent almost 20 hours digging through collapsing clay, gas-filled pockets, and total darkness to reach the trapped soldiers. He saved one Private Hardwick and refused to abandon another, even when ordered to retreat. His final words, recorded by survivors, were, "I must look after the others." Moments later, a final collapse buried the tunnel forever. Hackett's body was never recovered. His sacrifice showed the world the kind of courage required to fight in the mines. The same courage shown by the men preparing to fire the charge under Hawthorn Ridge. Finally, the operation moved into its final stage. The plan was simple: detonate the mine at 7:20 a.m. On July 1st, 1916, 10 minutes before the infantry advanced. Commanders believed the explosion would destroy the German defenses, long enough for British troops to cross no man's dash land. At the surface, officers raised binoculars, telegraphed messages ticked through field wires. Thousands of soldiers braced for the moment. All eyes were on the ridge. At exactly 7:20 a.m., the earth erupted. The Hawthorn Ridge mine exploded with a blast, so powerful that soil, timber, and entire sections of trench shot hundreds of feet into the air. Film footage taken by British cinematographer Geoffrey Mullins captured the moment, one of the earliest battlefield explosions ever filmed. The shockwave rolled across the battlefield. For a moment it seemed as if the ridge itself had been torn open, yet the explosion, spectacular as it was, did not shift the balance of the battle. Detonating it 10 minutes early gave German survivors time to rush from deep dugouts, man their machine guns, and prepare for the British assault. When British infantry advanced, they ran into a storm of fire. The assault on Beaumont Hamel failed. Hawthorn Ridge remained in German hands for several more months, but the crater, nearly 300 feet across and about 80 to 90 feet deep, stood as a monument to the unseen war beneath the Somme. Today, that crater still exists, overgrown, quiet, and peaceful. It is one of the most haunting reminders of the tunnelers' world, a world where men carved through darkness, fought duels through earthen walls, and lived with danger pressing against them from every direction. The story of Hawthorn Ridge cannot be told without acknowledging the thousands of men who fought beneath the ground, men like the 252nd Tunneling Company, who built the mine, and men like William Hackett, whose heroism at Givenchy represents the courage of the tunnelers as a whole. In the end, the war underground was not defined by explosions, it was defined by endurance, by unshakable duty, and by the miners who turned their civilian skills into acts of extraordinary bravery, in tunnels no wider than their shoulders. The crater at Hawthorn Ridge remains their silent memorial,